Today we're talking about the 5th season of Codename Kids Next Door and asking the age-old question, which side was really in the wrong? Like this season we got the kids waging biological warfare on the teens with unpoppable pimples and redirecting air traffic to make the Grand Canyon into a giant cereal bowl. But on the other hand, the adults try to cut their kids' hair themselves. This season of K&D aired from October of 2005 to August of 2006 with a pretty strange release schedule. Instead of premiering primarily on Cartoon Fridays, this season had a new episode premiere nearly every day of the week, which is probably why my memory of this season's more spotty than the others. The most significant change this season has to be the departure of co-writer Mo Willems, who pursued his career as a picture book creator, and you've probably seen his work before, most notably his first published book, Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus. Replacing Mo Willems was Andy Reingold, who Mr. Warburton describes as writing with a much more loose, oddball style compared to the structure of Willems. Obviously, it's a little hard for me to parse which parts of what stories you can connect to any one writer, but to his point, this season has some of the craziest concepts of the whole show. So let's just jump into the first episode of Season 5, Operation Ducky, Dirty Unwashed Captain's Cowardly Yacht. So we start the season strong with my favorite character, the Tommy, not to be confused with just Tommy. He's reluctant to take a bath, but when he slips in, is somehow transported to the SS Stinky Pants, which is like a parody of the USS Enterprise from Star Trek. And we even get our very own William Shatner parody, Captain James P. D.U.C.K.Y.
Time is something we don't have, Dr. McCoy. She's right on our tail, and she will not rest until I, Captain James B. D.U.C.K.Y, and all of you boys are squeaky clean.
On top of all the Star Trek references, we also have a Moby Duck reference here, as we see the crew narrowly escape. Remembering his older brother's advice to not run from his problems, Tommy leads the crew to fight Moby Duck head-on, harpooning him with plungers and trying to drag him down the Great Drain, though if this is the bathtub, it might be more of a sinkhole. Before they can do this, we learn the Duck's actually the captain's mom, who's been trying to get him to take a shower for 36 years. You know, if he didn't get dragged down the drain here, I just know he would have loved Pokemon card scalping. Rest in peace. Now the focus this time around is which side is in the right or wrong here, and I gotta say, we're actually starting with the kids being in the wrong for not taking a bath. Like, that's just nasty, man. So let's move on to episode 1B, Diaper. Drooling infants awarded perilous emergency rescue. The kids next door break into the hospital as they believe the adults have been kidnapping babies and turning them directly into adults. Number 5 says this can't be true because her older brother has kids and that didn't happen to them, so it's kinda cool lore added to the Lincoln family to know Abigail has an older brother who probably lives in France according to a Q&A Mr. Warburton did on this fan forum in the mid-2000s. Abby also tries to explain that babies don't come from baby eggs, but the kids start crying and cut her off, so she sings them a lullaby to get them to go back to sleep.
Hush, my baby, don't cry or peep. The moon's in the sky, let's count the sheep.
So you might be familiar that number 5's voice actor is Cree Summer, but you might not know that she's actually a pretty good singer, which makes sense. I feel like a lot of very successful voice actors can also sing well, but I'll bet you didn't know she has her own album, so you should totally like and subscribe for that tidbit, I'm just saying. In 1999, she released the album Street Fairy, which actually got pretty good reviews. It was even produced by Lenny Kravitz. And overall, I genuinely enjoyed listening to this album. Going back to the episode, one of the babies steals number 5's teeth because they're sick of all the baby talk and baby food they're subject to, and yeah, I kind of forgot way back in season 1, they established the kids wear dentures because they take such awful care of their teeth. I think my most controversial ruling in these K&D videos is that Night Brace was in the right for cleaning these kids' teeth against their will, and I get why people would say forcing a medical procedure on someone's like bad and stuff, but any kid who can't talk without dentures, it's just sad to me. So yeah, I'm doubling down on that take. This baby wearing the dentures is so disturbing. I think it's the fact the teeth are all crooked, it just looks really gross. Especially when you combine it with Tara Strong channeling one of her Rugrats baby voices.
I will no longer tolerate baby talk from stupid adults like you!
The babies form a giant mech to try to take the other kids' teeth, and the only way to soothe these savage babies is with music, so number 1 sings them to sleep, but it was actually just so bad he knocked the babies out.
Let's count the sheep.
Unlike Cree Summer, Ben Diskin doesn't really have a background as an actual singer. Like, the only instance I can find of him singing was a soft piano version of the song Treat You Better, specifically channeling another role of his as Haida from the show Agretzko, specifically after being heartbroken and drunk and falling down in the rain.
I won't lie to you. I know he's just not right for you.
Anyways, number 5 gets her teeth back and ends the episode finally telling the kids where babies actually come from.
Wait a second, that's preposterous! Babies don't come from New Jersey! They come from Philadelphia.
This is probably a jab at the Fact series creator. Mr. Warburton is from the Philadelphia area, in a borough called Ambler, so when I visited Philly earlier this year, I had to record a video getting a really good pizza here, just in case it ever came up. We're here in Ambler, Pennsylvania, the birthplace of Mr. Warburton, creator of Kids Next Door. Now, there's no Kids Next Door anything in the town, as you probably expect, but we got some good pizza from the pizza box, and it's like 10 degrees. And yeah, that's all. Going back to our classic question of who's in the wrong, the kids are obviously wrong about how the adults are converting babies into adults, let alone the fact they're coming from New Jersey, so we gotta put them in the wrong here. But it's like more in a wrong than a guilty kind of way. Episode 2, Elections, Enemy launches evil campaign to inflame our noble school. The delightful children are elected the next presidents of the 4th grade, and their first order of business is throwing Nigel in solitary detention. Nigel's so badass here, like him flying through the prisons like Attack on Titan nearly a decade before the show. We've talked about Mr. Warburton's love of anime like One Piece, but I'll never have another relevant opportunity to show the cover of a random sketchbook of his he posted on his blog, Attack on Tintin? We learned this rigged election is part of Chad and the teenagers' plan to pit all the grades against each other in order to destroy the kids next door, but Nigel records this conversation, revealing the scheme to the rest of the school, and is able to rally the elementary students against the teenagers. It's pretty cool to see a bit of the other grades' leaders and personalities, and there's so much going on in some of these shots, it's really cool. Despite the complexity of it all, they do a good job of making all the action simple enough to digest, like giving each character their own little moment. My favorite being number 2 deliberately crashing his own vehicle into the teenagers and taking them all out.
What?
The second half of this episode's very Star Wars-esque in its presentation. Like, we have the shots inside the cockpit of the vehicles, or Nigel shooting a tennis ball down the hall at the principal's door, kinda like the exhaust port of the Death Star. Yeah, you'll probably notice there seems to be a lot more movie references this season. I like the concept that Nigel hitting the principal's door will alert him to the chaos going on outside, like he just can't see or hear it otherwise. Nigel misses the shot, but Chad runs over the tennis ball, crashing into the office and causing a series of explosions, which I'm assuming are from the principal's rage. Back at school, Nigel goes on stage to accept his rightful presidency, but we learn the truly elected president of the 4th grade class isn't the delightful children, or Nigel, but Egbert.
Egg boy? Who would vote for him?
So yeah, the adults are wrong here for rigging the election, especially from someone as goated as Egbert. I mean, even the other kids next door all voted for him instead of their own comrade.
He's seen good times, and he's seen bad times, but Egbert isn't the kind to scramble key points or go over easy on real issues. Egbert Eggleston. If you're not voting for him, the yoke's on you. This ad paid for by the We Love Egg-Boy, oh yes we do, We Love Egg-Boy, How About You coalition, and is endorsed, approved, and otherwise okie dokie by Egbert Eggleston and all members of the Egg-Boy for 4th grade president campaign.
Operation 3A Bullies, big ugly lunks like intimidating and trapped scaredy cats. This episode has numbers 2 and 4 going on a trip to Bully Island, where they help this kid Jerry, R.E.C.R.U.I.T, learn more about bullies and their natural habitat. The fact Jerry walks with a cane made me assume he was gonna be an adult pretending to be a kid and trapping them here, but I genuinely enjoy the twist that Jerry's a kid and his back issues aren't from old age, but rather this awful seesaw wedgie number 4 gave him back in the 1st grade. Numbers 2 and 4 are the most prominent buddy-buddy duo we see throughout this show, and this episode really adds a fresh new layer to this dynamic by examining their differences as a bully and a dork. It's not terribly deep, or maybe these kids are just too complex for me to sit here and say, yeah, number 2's a nerd, cause like he's way too badass for that label. Same thing for number 4, he's way too much of a dork for me to sit here and say he's just a bully. While the concept's great, the episode overall is a bit flat for me. Like, I love the concept of the episode, the layout of the island, even the designs of the bullies, like these ones whose jacket collars frill up like reptiles, but I find myself not really rooting for anyone here. Like, number 4 doesn't really care much about the bullying or feel much remorse. He just gets bullied out of revenge, and then the bullies end up attacking Jerry. Obviously, 2 wrongs don't make a right, and there's something to be said about getting revenge and how that'll only lead to an endless cycle of more revenge. But yeah, I kinda just end this episode feeling bad for Jerry. Like, he got bullied so badly he walks with a cane. And even through this whole ordeal, number 4 didn't even learn anything. He just kinda said, hey, don't tell anyone about this, while still planning to beat that nerd up if he catches him. Obviously, it's not that serious, and it's kinda looking too far into a simple plot being used to make a fun K&D version of Jurassic Park. But these little things really did prevent me from getting into this episode, where I found myself really engaged with other shows that really took the time to look more into why a kid may have bullied others in the past, or what made them change their ways. The best example I can think of a show that did this really right for me is like Fillmore, but that's another video for another day. So yeah, all of the kids here are in the wrong for some sort of combo of vengeance or bullying or something, so let's move on. Operation 3B Fishy, feline invaders swarm headquarters yearningly. Number 4 shakes number 3's fishbowl, putting Mr. Fishy to sleep, presumably forever. This episode does something really cool by breaking the kids up into 2 separate buddy-buddy duos, that being the classic team of numbers 2 and 4 who go to flush Mr. Fishy before the crazy old cat lady steals him, as well as a really fun team in numbers 1 and 5 who try to win Kooky a new fish at the carnival. This is really the perfect setting for 2 serious, competent characters, and it kinda goes to show no matter how seriously they take themselves, they're still just kids. But even if they weren't kids, I think any serious character contrasts in a really funny way at a carnival. Number 4 makes it to this giant toilet all the operatives flush their fishes down, but he's become attached to Mr. Fishy, even holding on to the hope or delusion that Mr. Fishy might just be sleeping this whole time. This whole sequence gives us yet another movie parody, this time with The Lord of the Rings, specifically when Gollum falls into Mount Doom with the ring, which is pretty funny. I feel like I never get tired of seeing this scene parodied in shows, despite not having seen the movies yet myself, though my absolute favorite Mount Doom parody has gotta be the one from Total Drama World Tour. In the end, we learn this toilet leads directly back to the carnival game number 1's playing, and the fish all play dead and get flushed back here for kids to spend more money buying new fish friends. Man, that's a great business strategy, but it's pure evil. Your whole business revolves around traumatizing children, taking their money, and worst of all, forcing them to play carnival games. Like, hey, I love carnival games, but take a look at Steph Curry, the best 3-point shooter of all time, trying to make buckets on these hoops. The whole contraption shakes. He did hit the money balls though. So here the adults are definitely in the wrong for this corrupt business scheme, but it's a great idea, I can't lie. Episode 4A, Breakup. Boys ruin everything and create upset people. Wallaby keeps playing in the house and breaking this koala vase no matter what he does or where he goes, and I'm assuming this is some cheesy, cheap vase they got like 100 copies of or something, because Wallaby's mom keeps replacing it and tells him if he breaks it again, she's gonna send him to ballroom dancing school, a fate even worse than military school. The vase gets stolen by a random kid and taken to the Coliseum we saw last season during the Bully Matador episode, but here the kids are playing vaseball, which is like baseball but with vases and any other fragile objects. Number 4 steals this vase back before it gets smashed and hides away in the commissioner's office, who's the same kid Ernest who ran the Matador scheme last season. Here he's anything but earnest, like his plan is to get every kid in the neighborhood grounded so the bullies can go egg and TP everyone's homes without anyone snitching on them. I don't really see how a kid getting grounded would stop them from tattling, like it probably gives some kids alibis to why they couldn't have done it. According to the K&D wiki, Ernest is probably named after author Ernest Hemingway, who was a Spanish bullfighting enthusiast, which is pretty interesting to consider. Writing the bullfighting tangent, if you remember the song Number 4 whistled last season, that's the quote-unquote Five Nights at Freddy's song. This tune Wallaby whistles is the aria Toreador March from the French opera Carmen. The song's used in a fair bit of media besides Kids Next Door and FNAF, and I personally don't hear it and think about Five Nights at Freddy's. It's not like how the word suspicious was moving in 2020 with like Among Us, hell even the phrase Among Us. This episode ends with Number 4 defeating Ernest in a duel here, but he accidentally plays the tape recording, getting all the kids grounded while Wallaby safely returns the vase back home just to break it a second later. I assume Ernest is a kid and not a teenager, so I think it's pretty easy to say the kids are in the wrong for this convoluted plan to egg people's houses, as well as the other kids bringing these valuables to the field in the first place. Like, may I offer you a sphere of cork and rubber wrapped in yarn and covered with natural cowhide or synthetic composite leather? I don't know, I just feel like hitting one of these would feel way better with a bat than a vase that just breaks on impact. Episode 4B, Safari. Shots are fired at rear incessantly. Ayo. Nigel has to get his moose bump shot, but his doctor's a deranged hunter who releases Nigel into the wild of his office safari, trying to hunt him down. When Dr. Sharp corners Nigel, we learn he's actually Chester, aka the most evil character in the whole show, and he's actually creating this moose virus, not curing it, shooting Nigel and practically turning him into Bullwinkle.
What have you done to me?
I'll have you know I'm a bona fide actor!
Fortunately, this body horror is just a paranoia daydream of Nigel, explaining to his mom why he can't go to the doctor, but then he walks inside the doctor's office and Chester's there waiting for him. So yeah, Nigel is probably in the right about this. Whether this was a tall tale from Nigel or not, the sight of Chester alone is enough for me to say the adults are in the wrong. Like, I've thought some villains like Mr. Boss were bad for the things they've done, like trying to send all his employees' daughters to Pluto, but Chester is like the most evil, irredeemable character of all to me. Episode 5, Naughty. Ninny's Almost Undue Greatest Holiday This Year. This is the Kids Next Door Christmas episode, where we see the Kids Next Door break into the North Pole and just tranquilize all of Santa's elves, which is a pretty shocking opening. But then we get a cute little Christmas version of the K&D theme song, and look at this. Now that's soul. When the K&D fly back to their base, we see the treehouse has been chopped clean off, and this Wolverine-looking elf tells the K&D he needs the present Kookie's holding, which she said is a Christmas gift for Wallaby. The Kids Next Door then fight these Christmas versions of the X-Men, which according to the wiki, besides Wintergreen, the Wolverine parody, we got Nutcracker parodying Nightcrawler, Coniferous parodying Colossus, and Snow Angel seems to be some combo of Storm, Angel, and Iceman, which is pretty cool, though I personally have never heard of Angel. I wouldn't be too surprised if she was just a parody of Storm. Wintergreen summons the entire 12 Days of Christmas on the number 3 to get his reindeer back that she stole, but we learned this is a big misunderstanding, cause Kooky only has a rainbow monkey reindeer she got for Wallaby, and the K and D that are in the North Pole are actually the Delightful Children. They steal this reindeer system that they use to teleport all the kids' presents to their mansion and replace them with coal, and I guess it's pretty obvious the K and D wouldn't just trank up the North Pole, along with the fact number 5 isn't way taller than everyone else. And hold on, well, I guess that's everything but blackface. It was a different time. We see the Delightful Children's greed corrupt them into Grinches here, which eventually corrupts Kooky, basically turning her into a Christmas demon here. But I really like how they play out the progression of emotions. Like, she doesn't start with greed, but sadness that her friends didn't get presents for her. This sadness turns into anger and insisting upon her self-worth, and I don't know, it's such a minor little detail but feels so real and deep to me. Especially as someone who kinda struggles with anxiety and stress around the holiday season. The only way to save Kooky is for Wallaby to go in and comfort her, which he does with his W.R.E.A.S when he reveals he actually got her a Christmas present this whole time, but wanted to keep it a surprise. The present in question is just his leftover fries, like not even a fresh order of Five Guys bag fries, just a regular order of leftover fries. Fortunately, Kooky sees the love and intent behind number 4's gift, or she just really likes leftover fries and returns back to normal. Man, some foods taste just as good, if not better as leftovers, but fries are certainly not one of them. Like, they just disintegrate if you refrigerate them. So all's well that ends well, and they learn the significance of the Christmas spirit, or something like that, sorta. I mean, Kooky won't even let Santa borrow a fry. And then in the end credits, number 4 steals them back. But yeah, overall it's a pretty cool episode. It really plays out like a Saturday morning superhero show. And while I consider Christmas and holiday specials to be very, very hit or miss, this one's decent, which feels like a rare but welcome surprise. The Delightful Children are in the wrong here, and while I normally mark them as an extension of the adults, seeing that they seem to mess with Christmas on their own without father, along with the fact number 3 also got corrupted by the greed here, leads me to mark this as the kids being in the wrong. Episode 6A Virus, Very Achy Research Under C. So this is where Kids Next Door started airing their new episodes on Saturday mornings, and where my recollection of the series gets pretty spotty. This Saturday morning block was a bit strange, as this episode of K&D aired alongside new episodes of Ben 10, along with the life and times of Juniper Lee, and this show Dragon Hunters I've never heard of before, but some friends I asked actually liked it a lot, so I'd love to know if any of y'all watched or remember Dragon Hunters. This episode's all about the kids next door waging biological warfare on the teens in response to the disgusting chickenpox they made last season. Kree's been searching for number 5 throughout the episode, giving all the kids next door the work in the process, but ultimately is unable to find her sister. It turns out the virus Kree was trying to fight was an unpoppable pimple on tonight of all nights, prom, but Abigail has a soft spot for her sister and believes the K&D are in the wrong for testing this on such a special night for the teens, which is kinda sweet. In a way, this episode reminds me of the Christmas truce from World War I, in which British and German troops had a ceasefire on the titled holiday, and here we have the prom truce, although it was mainly just between these two sisters. Maybe this was an intentional reference, maybe it's just in my head because we just saw the Christmas special, or maybe a temporary truce like this is way more common than I think, but regardless, it's a sweet moment that shows the bond between these sisters and the power of kindness in the face of evil. While this episode's never felt very special to me, even now, like it really was just kinda Kree frantically running around screaming and beating people up, it really is one of the few times the sisters were kind to each other, and neither one of them ended up pulling a twist in the end. Though numbers 1 and 2 were about to blow up the whole prom as the episode ends, but that's neither here nor there. The kids gotta be in the wrong for their biological warfare here. Like, despite the teens doing this first, that was a different episode and the teens were marked guilty for that, so yeah. Episode 6B, Outbreak. Overflowed undersea treehouse bears really extra awful contamination. Similar to last episode, Outbreak follows the kids trying to stop the spread of a virus in the deep sea space lab. Number 4 encounters this girl who's patient 0 of the disease cooties, or congenital octo-oogie-terta infecto-epi streptococcus. I still have no idea what congenital is supposed to mean. I Google it and nothing comes up that isn't related to this episode. So my best guess is it's just a made up word to sound gross, like moist or knapsack. And wow, this disease is so much worse than I could have imagined. Like, there's a lot of gross out body horror this season. The head of security here, number 20,000, obviously named after 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, believes they can't risk the outbreak of this virus, even aiming to sacrifice everyone on board if needed, which is pretty dark, though I do respect his nobility, albeit misguided. Fortunately, in the end, we learn number 4's horrible disfigurement isn't caused by cooties, but his allergies to coconut, cause he ate a coconut log candy bar earlier. So you know what time it is, it's the weekly Kids Next Door Argue About a Random Food segment. This week, we're talking about coconut candy. Now I will say, I like coconut, like in a Thai soup, great. Coconut water, usually good. In a candy bar, awful. Do any of y'all like Almond Joys? Anyone? I'm not gonna lie, it's always felt like an old person candy to me. Anyways, this is a cool episode. I like the drama and tension of potentially sacrificing their crew to stop the virus, and the fact this random girl has just been on the ship here and they don't even know who she is really funny. I feel like it kind of plays into the fact this submarine's full of nerdy scientists, like they come to the conclusion this girl must have cooties. So I gotta say the kids are in the wrong here. I mean, they weren't fighting against the adults, but the fact they misdiagnosed this whole disease and nearly sacrificed everyone in the process is just factually incorrect at a minimum. Episode 7A, Canyon, Clear Area, Need You Out Now. This episode takes place in the Grand Canyon, as we see the kids next door evacuating everyone out of the surrounding area, even the airspace. As part of whatever this plan is, number 4 goes to the villain adult store as the Admiral, whose disguise has already been busted by the Toiletnator before. And you know, I've been calling him the Toiletnator this whole time, but it's actually the Toiletnator. But hey, at least Mr. Warburton himself acknowledges it's a lame name for a lame character. I gotta respect it. The Toiletnator tries to inform Mr. Boss about the situation, who's dealing with a clogged toilet himself, so he decides to take both the mission and the plumbing of the store into his own hands, metaphorically, of course. So the kids next door's big secret is to fill the Grand Canyon like a giant cereal bowl, which is awesome and feels like a very classic K&D scheme with a really imaginative idea and a giant sense of scale. The Toiletnator uses his psychic toilet powers here and drains the entirety of the cereal bowl, which would normally be great in a rare instance of this villain winning, but it turns out the rest of the adults knew about this plan and were waiting in a submarine inside the milk, so the episode ends with both the Toiletnator and number 1 getting chased by both the kids and the adults for ruining this scheme, which is pretty funny. Like, the kids would rather blame Nigel for the plan going wrong than the fact that Toiletnator's just become a waterbender and potentially one of the strongest villains if he just walked in. The kids gotta be in the wrong for this scheme, like they pretty much are committing acts of terrorism, derailing these flight paths and evacuating the park just for a big bowl of cereal, but like, I can't even be mad. This is one of the coolest, most creative ideas in the whole show. Episode 7B, Holiday, Hamsters on Leave and Disastrous Airline Yarn. The hamsters are all taking a vacation to Jamaica, all at once, cause I guess no one ever learned their lesson the last time the hamsters did that. We learn number 1's already there meeting with number 10, the leader of Sector L, which really upsets Lizzie, who forces her way onto the flight with the hamsters. Lizzie has a pie she baked for Nigel, and as we know, she's a horrible cook, and the fact it grosses out number 2 is really saying something when you consider he's currently eating an apple crumble, which, as you remember, is made with Number 2 accidentally eats a piece of this pie and passes out, so Nigel has to call Lizzie and help her navigate the plane to not cause a crash. The signal cuts out right before she flies into a mountain, so Nigel assumes she's crashed, but Lizzie's actually surprisingly skilled and smoothly crash lands onto the beach, which I guess isn't too surprising if you know more about Lizzie, but we'll cover that next week. If you know, you know. When Lizzie confronts number 10 for stealing her man and stuff, we learn numbers 1 and 10 are actually cousins, and number 10 would never date a bald workaholic who wears rainbow monkey underwear. So the two gals walk off, bonding over their mutual annoyance of Nigel, which is a really funny, happy ending, I guess for everyone besides Nigel. I like the ending of the two becoming friends over this way more than Lizzie hating her to defend Nigel here. Like, everyone just kept it real. We even get a little end credits song that I feel like we probably wouldn't see nowadays for being a bit of a caricature of Jamaican culture, but I won't lie, I can't knock the Hamster Limbo song.
On the block, whoa, I'm still limbo. How low can a hamster go? Limbo hamster, and under the bar you go.
While I was leaning towards making this episode a non-applicable entry, I feel like it's pretty easy to say the kids are in the wrong here. Like, one may argue Lizzie's in the wrong for not trusting Nigel to not cheat on her, but I can't really blame her too much. I mean, Nigel could have told her he was going on vacation, I guess. So I'm marking the kids as in the wrong here, but if you mark this as a non-applicable yourself, I wouldn't blame you for it. Episode 8, Caked 5. Centuries after calamity, enemy dessert found in void's emptiness. The 5th entry in the Caked franchise starts with one of the coolest sequences in all of Kids Next Door, a flashback to the 18th century a la mode, which is a pun combining the Alamo, like from the military event between Mexico and the Republic of Texas, combined with the French phrase a la mode, which in culinary terms refers to topping a dessert with ice cream, you know, like an ice cream cake. We zoom past hundreds of operatives as we see this kid grab a paper inside with what looks like the delightful mansion, causing an explosion to detonate all the way to the back lines. And the way this leads to the theme song hits so hard, like it was really perfect timing. It really got me and my friends hyped up to see the final entry in the Cake series. Since there's 5 delightful children, they had 5 caked birthdays. After the theme, we're taken back to modern times, where number 1's planning a cake version of a Trojan horse for the delightful children, and they go to the Alamo to do some research. Here we learn more of the events that transpired, like the mansion belonged to the annoyingly cute triplets who lived upon the hill, and a trap went off which caused 5,000 Kids Next Door operatives to be frozen in time, which is pretty dark. Like, the kids didn't die, but it took 10 years for them to thaw out, so they all got decommissioned, which is like basically dying. We also learned the boy who grabbed the cake recipe, number 19th century, was never found after this explosion, and the name goes hard, but it does make me wonder, does every century have a K&D representative? Is there a number 21st century out there? I wonder what they'd even look like. Like, styles have changed so much every 5 to 10 years lately. Anyways, they managed to find number 19th century, and his memories are a little fuzzy, and on top of that, he's from the 1800s, so you know he's gonna be really based.
When did this happen?
You were frozen in an explosion.
Not that! When did they let girls into the Kids Next Door?
Numbers 86 and 19th century get intercepted by Father, as we learn the 5th cake isn't down the lane, but in space, as a giant ice cream cake. See, that Alamo pun from before actually played a part in this episode. Look at that. My favorite part of this episode has gotta be number 86 telling Father this boy's actually from the 1800s, and they just ask him questions and laugh at him.
Go on, ask him something.
Say, 19th century kid, you wanna watch a cartoon on the television?
What is a cartoon? And what is this thing you call television?
I know I'm a broken record at this point, but heroes and villains coming together over a mutual fun or funny will always be one of my favorite tropes in a show. We learn the mother of the annoying triplets is father's great-grandmother, which is pretty interesting lore, and number 19th Century knows the ingredients to the long-lost cake, but refuses to share the recipe, getting the two thrown into sherbet confinement. Number 86 hates sherbet because it's just fruit and ice, which is like any sweet ice cream flavor, ? And it actually looks really good close up, but when they zoom out, they make it the color of the unpleasant gradient, which is just unfair. So you know what? I'm adding sherbet to the food argument today, cause I'll defend it forever. Sherbet. 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 It's so much more fun to say sherbet. I don't care if it's pronounced sherbet. That's not fun. We learned 19th Century didn't actually know the recipe, but just said that in order to protect number 86, and then they fall in love despite his rampant sexism. It's a pretty funny combo, overzealous feminist and a level of sexism you can only get from over 200 years ago. Kinda reminds me of that most racist person ever meme. Like, we all know a couple like this, let's be real. The rest of the episode has the kids next door infiltrate the cake base in a flying ice cream truck to rescue the operatives and fight father, whose telekinetic, pyrokinetic powers melt the ice cream ship. Yeah, there's really not a worse environment for father to fight in than an ice cream cake, but what ends up actually destroying the base is father's rage when he smudges the long-lost recipe, which was etched on a number 19's chest from the explosion hundreds of years ago.
No! The recipe is smudgifying! Please! No! No.
The kids next door manage to escape the cake star and go back to Earth, where we see number 4 still waiting inside the Trojan cake from the very beginning of the episode, as the delightful children think this was father's gift to them. Every caked episode in the series is so amazing, this one included. Like, the sense of scale is really pushed to a whole nother level, and one of the funniest things about the caked episodes is just how spiteful everyone is. Like, it's not enough for the delightful children to have ice cream cake, they also have to ensure no other kids have ice cream ever again, as if it makes theirs taste any better. On the other hand, the kids next door try to ruin the cake in celebration each time, so like, really everyone in this show is in the wrong, but clearly the adults are more wrong here for the sake of the spreadsheet. The episode ends with number 86 telling number 19th Century she loves him despite his sexism, and then decommissions him, wiping all his memories of the Alamo as well as the long-lost recipe. Which is kinda sad and frustrating, but also like, if he's decommissioned on account of being like 200 years old and not a kid, maybe he should go back to the sherbet jail, I'm just saying. Episode 9A, Recruit, really excitable child rookie undergoes impossible tests. This episode follows a hopeful recruit to the kids next door, Bobby, but the kids next door are pretty cruel to him as we see the trials they put him through to see if he's really K&D material. They even present Bobby with the red pill cherry lollipop and the blue pill boysenberry lollipop, and he decides he wants to learn more of the kids next door, even if it's painful or sour. We learn Bobby's dinner plate's a special CD that his DNA is being extracted off to make clones of him, along with the other kids, and Bobby has to break into the villains' hideouts, like Mr. Wink and Mr. Phibbs' house, where we see these two roommates sitting on the couch in the dark, watching a movie. Yeah, roommates. So the rest of the episode has Bobby just getting shot at by the villains he tries to spy on and infiltrating the adult dishwasher mainframe, until the end where we learn Bobby's actually the interesting twins from beneath the mountain. And you know, I never realized the shading on their face is kinda supposed to be like the yin-yang symbol, or maybe it's a birthmark or something. I don't know, it probably would have stood out to me a little quicker if they were Chinese and not Japanese. It's a fun plot twist, and I appreciate in the end they don't say this whole story was a lie. Like, it's nice to get a little bit more lore of the series, though it doesn't really lead to anything. I found this episode a lot less funny than the last time the kids messed with the interesting twins. Maybe it was because we knew in advance the characters getting messed with was the villains from the start, or maybe it was because there was more gags there. Here it's just kind of getting shot and exploding and stuff. But yeah, as characters that work for father, although they're technically kids, I have to say the adults are in the wrong here. Episode 9B, Daddy, Dastardly Adults Do Degrades Youngsters. This episode starts with this kid, number 85, being rushed to the hospital, where we learn he's had a tragic haircut done by his dad instead of a barber. It's kinda cool to see he's part of the same team as numbers 83 and 84, who were in the basic training with Tommy. Like, it's just cool to see they've grown up before our very eyes. I feel like a proud parent, man. Number 1 also shows up, horrified by this haircut, which is kinda funny since he doesn't have hair himself, but being bald/shaved can actually be a lot of work, especially to make it look clean. There's a lot of bald and facial hairstyles I like, as long as it's not like the bald and chin strap combo like Alex Caruso's new look. It just makes me wonder, where does it start and where does it end? Anyways, we learn number 85's little brother Shawnee is next in line to get a haircut from their dad, so the K&D go to save him, and are warned this family's dad and sister are both pretty scary. And he really wasn't lying, because we learned the sister in question is number 86, which you might assume since she's one number higher and has the same kind of curly ginger hair. On top of that, these kids' father is none other than Mr. Boss, which is pretty crazy, and the fact neither of them knew too. Like, surely number 86 has had to have seen Mr. Boss before, right? It kinda makes more sense Mr. Boss wouldn't assume a girl with a sieve on her head is his daughter. Really, the more confusing issue to needlessly poke and prod would be the fact Mr. Boss is a brunette with a red-haired daughter. Like, we know their mother has red hair from the sleepover episode and shares a similar accent, which at times sounds a bit more Scottish than Irish, but Mr. Boss sounds more like a typical mobster, and his hair is brown, so maybe he's the stepfather that stepped up, or maybe his hair was red in his youth but got brown as he aged. I've also read about red hair skipping a generation or two, so one parent's a brunette and the other's a ginger, which could also be the case here. But yeah, I worried so much about their hair, we kinda ignored the real issue at hand, is that this evil man who hates kids, even trying to send his employees' children to Pluto, has 3 kids of his own. Mr. Boss does point out he hates kids, except his own, which is kinda sweet. Like, in the finale video next week, I plan to make an evilness tier list, and this moment really does make me debate where to put him, cause as evil as he is, at least he's a good dad.
How about you kids? You want some pancakes?
Sure. Pancakes would be great.
Then go to a diner! Now get out of my house!
There's some pretty funny moments, like seeing number 83 still turns into a berserker in the dark because she's scared of it, and it's such a unique team to have Nigel team up with 83 and 84 here. It almost feels like he's training the younger generation of operatives. So yeah, one of my favorite episodes of the season. I gotta say the adults, aka Mr. Boss, are in the wrong here for giving such a bad haircut.
I should have known a villain like you would do such a thing to a kid's hair, but to your own son?
How do you get a can stuck on your head, man? Like, how did he even do that? Did he screw a screw into his head? Honestly, you gotta go bald. Episode 10A, Clown, Curmudgeons, Lackeys, Outlaw, Wacky Nonsense. Number 2 tells a lot of jokes in class that everyone hates, especially this clown. Like, does anyone else see him? He tells Hoagie to stop telling jokes or he'll get pies thrown at him, but number 2 doesn't stop, and he also doesn't tell a single funny joke in this entire sequence. Though I guess there is one funny joke where number 5 asks what's a fly doing in her soup, and Hoagie's too traumatized from all the pies to say the backstroke. I don't know if it would have made me laugh if he fired that off with his usual delivery and stuff, but I gotta give credit where credit's due, you know? Later, Hoagie sees a chicken cross the road, and although it's just an objectively true statement, he's trying to get to the other side. Hoagie gets kidnapped in a clown car from school. Like, does anyone else see this? We meet the clown father, who has a tragic backstory about losing his partner in crime because he forgot the punchline at a children's birthday party, and now seeks to protect others from this danger. And I will say, mobster clowns trying to protect others like this is really funny as a concept. But he does say a line that's aged very poorly over the last month or 2.
Yes, clown father, he did the chicken joke, sir.
The chicken joke, eh? Chicken joke, eh? Chicken joke, eh?
Hoagie escapes this office and runs into the local circus, where we learn the Clownfather's partner Chunko isn't dead and is actually Mr. Lincoln, who gave up clowning after this event to become a doctor, adding yet even more lore to the K&D universe. It's actually a really funny twist. Like, of all the characters, he isn't who I would have guessed, though looking back, I suppose he is one of the few adults we never see the face of. The kids are in the right here to tell jokes. Like, it's obviously very flawed clown logic to blame jokes for killing your friend. That's kind of like the Trolls movie logic of singing killed my grandma. But I do respect these clowns for trying to protect the kids from this pain, but you know what else hurts kids? Following them around school and throwing pies at them until they cry. Like, does anyone else see this? But yeah, it's a pretty fun episode. Let's move on. Episode 10B, Spankenstein, stuffed puffy animal now cruelly enacts nasty spanking to investigator's notable end. This episode's a follow-up to one of my favorite K&D episodes, where Hoagie had to solve the crime of Mushi stabbing the rainbow monkey at the dinner party last season. This time the Gilligans go to the Sambon's house for dinner, as we see Mushi's grounded in her room. Count Spankulot tries to punish her for stabbing the rainbow monkey, but Mushi's got hands. Mr. Sambon can't make sundaes without chocolate sauce, so Hoagie goes to the store to get some, and in typical cartoon noir fashion, they have some running allegories, like Hoagie having a bad history with chocolate sauce. This episode also calls back to the disgusting pink eye episode with Hoagie's old partner Joe.
Well, what have we here?
Joe Beluga. He used to be on the school's safety patrol until I fingered him for helping Nurse Claiborne.
It was a different time. So Joe patrols the parking lot and catches Hoagie, accusing him of stealing from the store for his old chocolate problem. But this is interrupted by a giant zombified version of the rainbow monkey that got stabbed last episode. Hoagie realizes this is their old pal, and then Joe electrocutes him, and it's actually like pretty sad. Hoagie returns to the Sambons to confront Mushi, but as we know, she's got hands and traps Hoagie in the closet with her crayon throwing knives. She really might be the most powerful Sambon, and that's saying something. Fortunately, Count Spankulot's also trapped in here and helps discipline Mushi and have dessert with the rest of the family, where he and Hoagie's grandma just debate who had a tougher childhood.
I was young. All we could afford to eat for dessert were tadpoles.
Tadpoles? I would have given my left pancreas to even have tadpoles. We use toenails.
In the end, we see Mushi escape with King Sandy, so maybe this little noir arc will continue in the future, but these are some of my favorite episodes in the series. I've always loved silly parodies of the noir genre, like it kind of reminds me of Fillmore in a way. 90% of the characters here are kids, so when determining who is wrong here, it's gotta be Mushi, the kid. But I really like that despite Count Spankulot being a big enemy of the K&D, he doesn't have any beef with Hoagie because he didn't do anything wrong here and just says, hey, let's go get dessert. Episode 11A, Hot Stuff. Hands off thermostat, says the upset father furiously. Number 3's dad waltzes into the treehouse and just makes himself at home because Number 3 turned up the thermostat so hot, she turned the Sambon's house into a volcano in the middle of town. Now in Kookie's defense, the house did look pretty cold. For not the first time this season, Number 3's become some sort of demon who refuses to let the kids touch the thermostat, kinda like her father, which is pretty funny. And it's always funny to me that Kookie's parents are so not happy compared to the kids. Like her dad's just neurotic, but the mom really feels like she didn't really get too many chances to be a kid and longs for it in her adulthood. In the end, Number 1's able to hit the thermostat and return things back to normal, though it's hard to tell what exactly normal is, because it looks like winter at the start of the episode, and by the end it almost looks like a sunny summer day, I assume because of the volcano. This whole episode, Mr. Sambon's been chilling in the treehouse and really making himself at home and just annoying Number 4, but he actually touches the thermostat in the treehouse, which is kind of messed up. Like, maybe it's okay to freeze your own family because it's your house, but you can't just go flipping someone else's thermostat, let alone turning their house into a giant block of ice. So yeah, on account of nearly freezing everyone's assets, I gotta say the adults, represented by Mr. Sambon, are in the wrong. Episode 11B, Mission, many incarcerated scoundrels secretly implement operatives' needs. Number 4 breaks several of the villains out of jail for a secret mission he needs help with, even blackmailing them with poisoned soda he won't give them the antidote to unless they help him. The Toilinator's also here, despite number 4 walking past him and rejecting him multiple times, which is pretty funny. Like, the Toilinator's so strong when he locks in, and nothing motivates him more than FOMO. Number 4 has this training montage with the villains, which I really like. It's kind of like one of the first episodes of the show, where we saw number 4 was pretty cruel when number 1 was out of town. We learn all this trainings for the big bowling tournament, because Wallaby's dad wins it every year, and he's the one that has to polish all the trophies. This seems like a lot more work than just polishing a trophy, but you know, it also seems like a lot more training than just practicing their bowling skills. I like when the villains pull up to the tournament because the other adults just laugh at them, and you know, I don't think we've really seen normal adults interact with the villains before. But yeah, they just beat them up and take their bowling outfits, which do go kinda hard, like they rock these. The bowling montage here is great. Like, whenever a cartoon has a sport or a game, I absolutely gotta see how all the different characters use their abilities to play. Like, Sticky Beard shoots the bowling balls out of a cannon of his pirate ship, Mr. Boss launches the ball out of his briefcase, Spankulot just spanks the ball down the lane for a strike, which is pretty crazy, but not as crazy as this bike from Soccer Mom. And the way the Toilinator massages Mr. Boss's back lump thing here is so gross. Like, my back and neck hurt whenever I look at him. I feel like Mr. Boss would be a perfect candidate for one of those massage therapists that just damn near snap everyone's necks. So Mr. Boss throws a strike, leaving Mr. Beatles to need to clean up a 7-10 split for the win, which he does in some twist of fate by unknowingly grabbing Wallaby as the ball, throwing him down the lane as he accidentally knocks the pins over, winning his father the giant bowling trophy. Number 4 now has to polish behind bars for his treasonous act of just releasing the villains. I gotta say, number 4 is in the wrong here. Like, I gotta give the adults credit, they actually did bowl as hard as they could, even when the rest of the kids next door broke in to bring the adults back to prison. So yeah, the kids are wrong, let's move on. Episode 12A, Licorice, Lost Island's crop of red irreplaceable candy endangered. So here's where the release order of candy gets a bit messed up, because the first episode of season 6 aired like a week before this episode of season 5, and then this episode aired on a Thursday, with the movie Operation Zero airing the next day. I'm guessing they wanted to ensure Operation Zero had a big summertime audience as a direct-to-TV movie or something, but it's just kind of funny to think if you were keeping up with the show on Fridays like I was, you would have gone back and forth between season 5 and 6 multiple times. This episode is Abigail's Candy Adventurer episode of the season, but instead of parodying Indiana Jones, it parodies Pirates of the Caribbean. Does anyone know why we say Caribbean instead of Caribbean when the words Pirates of are before it? Because I have no idea why. Don't even lie and say you don't say it that way. Abigail gets Sticky Beard to help her save Heinrich from this evil pirate named Black John Licorice, and as his name entails, Black John's a pirate who took the licorice trees from an island, which ended up cursing him and his crew to walk the nights as black licorice zombie pirates. The only way to get rid of this curse, according to this really nicely drawn musical sequence, is by planting this licorice seed. The only problem is Heinrich stole and ate this seed, and he's currently captured by Black John. Abigail and Sticky Beard pull up, where we learn Sticky Beard used to be a cabin boy for Black John, and used to be called Sticky Fuzz, on account of only having peach fuzz and not a full-grown beard yet. Abigail has a sugar-chugging contest against Black John, which I find really gross. Maybe it's because her eyes turn like pink and yellow here, or maybe it's just because of our awareness of just how bad sugar can potentially be for you. But regardless, it turns out this whole competition was Abigail stalling for Sticky Beard's crew to remove the licorice seed from Heinrich just before it tears him apart from the inside. Like, this is horrifying and disgusting. Well done. Black John and his pirates revert to their licorice forms, disintegrating in the sunlight as we learn a little more of Abigail and Heinrich's relationship, as Abigail asks if her saving him here makes up for what happened in Guatemala, which he vehemently refuses and says she'll never make it up to him. We'll learn next season what could have possibly gone down for Heinrich to still be mad at Abigail despite her saving his life here, so do yourself a favor, and if you don't know what happens yet, save it for next week when we talk about it, cause I guarantee it'll really surprise you if you don't know. Black John and his pirate crew gotta be in the wrong for the events that transpired here, though I do sympathize with them. They just wanted to remove this curse. If they plunged the licorice seed out of Heinrich so it didn't kill him, everyone would have been happy here, but yeah, great episode overall. This episode was so great, it even won an award at the Ottawa International Film Festival for Best Television Animation for Children, which is pretty cool. But I think we've been having a little too much fun, so let's move on to the saddest episode of this season, Home. Episode 12B, Home, Hardly Ordinary Monkey Estate. We see a montage of number 3 as a baby, growing up alongside her first rainbow monkey, which has aged with her. Like, look at this old rainbow monkey, it's so cute. Nigel tells Kooky it's probably time to decommission the My First Rainbow Monkey, as whatever transpired on today's mission with the stuffed animal caused Count Spankulot to escape. Kooky sees this ad for a rainbow monkey retirement home, so she and number 5 go to Fluffy Meadows together, and this goodbye scene is so sad. Like, I just feel bad for whoever on the team wrote this, because they must have been going through it. Also, I think this is the first episode we have following numbers 3 and 5 as a duo, which is a pretty fun dynamic. Like, although Abigail is pretty serious and kind of sees the whole rainbow monkey situation as silly, she still cares for Kooky and helps her as much as she can. The next day, Kooky gets one of her rainbow monkey's buttons as a prize in their rainbow monkey cereal and goes back to the retirement home where we learn Nurse Claiborne, the same nurse that made Pink Eye Crust Cobbler, works here after losing her job at this school for, you know, that. But she clearly hasn't learned her lesson because she's been shredding these rainbow monkeys to make the Rainbow Munchies cereal here. Even trying to throw the kids into the cereal. What is with the adults trying to eat the kids in this show? Also, do you think she knows the other adults like Father, or is she just a crazy nurse who tries to get kids to eat anything but food for whatever reason? The adults are obviously in the wrong here, like, it's not even an argument, so let's move on to the finale of season 5, Operation It. But first, a quick thank you to the viewers like you who make these videos possible. Elsewhere, James Bond 3W, Buggy, Niaru Senpai, Robert Rock, Jeffrey R, Jakira, Luther, Richard M, Flinley, and Paul H. Okay, so on to episode 13, Operation It, aka Indecisive Time. Number 362 decides to step down as head of the K&D because the job is stressful and annoying, like she gets a Whizbee thrown at her head because you can't say Frisbee on TV, it's copyrighted. The kids next door hold a giant game attack to decide the next Supreme Leader, and it's really fun. Like, there's a term in screenwriting called fun and games, and any movie or show that has a good fun and games section will always get a pass in my book. Like, we see the K&D bases from around the globe, even a giant space mecha battle between numbers 2 and 5, showing once again Mr. Warburton's anime influences. This particular sequence feels a bit more Macross-like to me, or I guess I should say Macross love, since Mr. Warburton recalls one of his earliest experiences with anime is going to a small Comic-Con in 1985, where he found a non-subtitled bootleg of Macross, Do You Remember Love, where he recalls he had no idea what was going on, and it was awesome. You gotta keep in mind, the internet wasn't really around for him to just look up what was happening, so yeah, it's pretty interesting to see just how exactly the anime landscape was in the past, and these unique experiences creators had in the past to find anime, let alone understand or enjoy it. We also see number 13, the dorky kid who broke everything in the Macaroni Museum gets tagged it, and everyone else would rather sacrifice their freedom and become Supreme Leader than let him ever be it. You may be wondering why the kids don't want to be the Supreme Leader of the kids next door, and why most people besides number 13 want to just stay it, but as number 362 explains to number 1, she's just kind of sick of the job. She doesn't get to go on missions anymore, and it's just a lot of paperwork. Nigel assures her she's made for the job, and he couldn't handle the pressure of such a big responsibility, and this scene goes so hard.
Thanks, Nigel, but no thanks. I think I'm done.
I don't think you want to touch me. After all, I am it. Good luck, Rachel. with whatever you decide.
Look out! He's
Gosh, Nigel is just a badass. More than that, this scene's so important to me because Mr. Warburton reveals in his blog the inspiration behind number 362's perspective lies within his own burnout of running the show for 5 seasons non-stop. And from the stories I've read on the blog, the experiences as a showrunner seem a lot harsher than we may think. From this blog post in 2010, Mr. Warburton says, quote, "Regardless, I would come home every night around 9 p.m., sit down on the sofa, and just burst into tears. Every night. It only took a couple minutes, and then I would be done. Then I'd be laughing about something else, but I needed that cry. It was a release from the non-stop onslaught of production. A day with 60 different people asking you 11 billion questions and expecting you to have an answer. And even if you didn't know the right answer, you had to tell them something, and that's one of the things I always stress to people who want their own show. Making a decision is one of the most important things you can do. It might not always be the right decision, but make one. And if it's wrong, fix it. Too many people are afraid of screwing up, so they just waffle around and nothing gets done. But if you can make more good decisions than bad ones, then you might just be on your way to something great. So yeah, this scene's really cool to me, because in a way, it really feels like Mr. Warburton speaking to his own main character, his own creation. And that's kind of beautiful. We get down to the last 20 seconds of the game of tag, where number 2 tags the last kid you'd expect, cause the kid turns out to be Father. Now Father's technically a Kids Next Door operative from the time he got turned into a kid and an animal when Tommy put his DNA into the code module. So Father infects all the Kids Next Door tree houses with broccoli, but the kids trick Father into reopening the game of tag, which is really funny. Like he tags number 362, who panics and tags the delightful children, who panic and tag back Father. So while this little sequence didn't work out, it leads to the finale of the game of tag, where Father's barricaded himself in a room of broccoli, and number 362 shows her dedication to the team by eating through the broccoli, threatening Father with it until he tags her back. So that's how Kids Next Door's 5th season ends, giving us a little more insight into the supreme leader of the Kids Next Door. The adults were clearly in the wrong here for overthrowing the government and destroying people's living spaces with broccoli. Now in some amazing twist of fate, we have both the kids and adults being wrong 11 times this season, in my subjective yet objective opinion. If I had to think of a reason why the wrongdoings equal here, whereas the past few seasons felt very lopsided to the villains just being very wrong, I'd venture a guess it may have something to do with the change in writing here, as we got a lot of wacky episodes where the kids were wrong, like Wallaby at the bowling alley, or even Bully Island. This season was full of movie parodies, past season continuations, new installments in some of my favorite running series like Hoagie Noir, while also adding a bunch of unique character combos to tackle missions together. While it's not my favorite season, it added so many cool things I fondly look back on, and was a great season overall. Next video we're going over the N to K and D, so I'll see you there. Alright, bye.